Today we got something that should make the Bulls fans feel a little bit more happy about the future, and that's because Derrick Rose, one of the favorite children of Chicago, had some words for Caleb Wilson, and it's not the usual he's talented because he works hard and has potential type of talk that you hear, that you're still going to hear a lot of that around Caleb Wilson as well, but Rose talked about Caleb having belief, the edge that reminds him of himself, and that hits a little bit different. We're going to talk a little bit about that, plus we're going to talk about why Caleb relating to Derrick Rose matters and the Rookie of the Year race. Plus, we're going to dive into the mailbag. All that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. So, Derrick Rose gave Caleb Wilson a major cosign, and for what it's worth, it doesn't take anything away from what Caleb Wilson's going to have to learn, grow through, and develop in his rookie year. It takes nothing away from those things at all, but it does make you feel a little bit warmer on the inside, at least myself about it, because Derrick Rose is somebody who he worked himself up, right? He in the way that he grinded, not only through his first season in college, that first NCAA tournament that ended up leading him to become the number one overall pick, and then many people will remember, why can't I win MVP? And it's very similar to what we've already heard in regards to Caleb Wilson saying, why can't he win Rookie of the Year? It already matters. It reminds you of that, right? And we talked about those two things and how they match. Now, the praise that he gave him, he was on Fox 32 where he talked about Caleb Wilson. He said this: you have to be delusional in a way. And I feel like he's delusional, where he believes he's the number one player. And I respect that. I mean, not to go too deep into it, but I feel like we relate a lot. I didn't talk to him that much, but I was just telling him about making a gambit move. The gambit move is a sacrifice. You got to keep making a sacrifice no matter what level you're on, because it's going to make sure you're disciplined and make sure you're focused. I feel like he's that. He's a focused young guy. Caleb Wilson's mindset is one of the things that, at least for me, makes me feel confidence that whatever the ceiling is of Caleb Wilson, whatever the max potential is from Caleb Wilson, that he's going to reach that, right? Because this is a guy that works. He's a gym rat. He wants to get back into the lab. He wanted to play all the summer league games. He wanted to get right back to playing, basketball and training with Modest and getting ready for the season, all those type of things, right? I think when you look in the sports world as well, the way that Derrick Rose talked about the delusional aspect of it, that's not an insult at all. That shows that you have to have a belief in yourself if you want to reach that very top, and you have to hold yourself accountable to that level. And that's what it is, right? So hearing that Derrick Rose relates to the mindset of Caleb Wilson and all those type of things, and when you already see how Caleb Wilson has embraced not only Chicago by wanting to come here, but also Derrick Rose's legacy in Chicago, right? Like wearing the rose on his suit during draft day. He said that it's the rose that grew from the concrete. Derrick Rose, like, you understand that silver rose pin on draft night, it shows you that it's bigger than just landing in Chicago, that there is an emotional attachment to this franchise, that he wanted to be here, right? So when Derrick Rose says that he relates to Caleb Wilson, it feels like something that Bulls fans should take notice from, because he's seeing something of himself in a young player. I think that Caleb Wilson's confidence in himself matters a lot, right? Because more than just talent, the Chicago Bulls need a leader. And sometimes to be a leader, you do have to be a little delusional, right? Like, many people will remember. Like, I don't always like to put myself in these stories, but think about it. I was maybe 2 months in when I started saying Chicago Bulls Central was the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. And now look what we've built here, right? We are the largest independent Chicago Bulls podcast in the world. That's it. The biggest one that's not linked to a major corporation, right? Even with what I do over on Locked On Bulls, we have a bigger fan base than that. So it goes to show you what you can do by being a little irrational. Sometimes that confidence can look like irrationalness at times, but you have to have that. But more so than any of that, Caleb Wilson wants the reps. He wants the competition. He's not afraid of the pressure. And that, to me, sounds like a leader. And that's something that we've lacked here for a long time in Chicago, as a leader. Now, I will say this, Caleb Wilson hitting a star level upside as well is going to definitely help with the direction of the Chicago Bulls team, and not a lot, but we needed a young player with this edge. And I want to say this, don't overlook Modest too, right? There's been a lot of talk recently about who's going to be 1 and 2, and if Modest is going to handle this. Like, Modest also has that edge. So I don't want to act like we haven't had that a little bit in Chicago, but now that you have, the focus is actually on the young guys. When Modest first got drafted, we still had Levine. I think we still had DeMar, right? Or did we lose DeMar that offseason? And so it was like, it wasn't the same. Like, because you still knew that the focus was still kind of on the guys before that. Now, this is a team that's focused completely on the development of these guys. And so that difference between arrogance and competitive belief, sometimes you have to live in that area. Now, they're going to be some people that take that as arrogance. I've had to deal with that. But sometimes you got to say, fuck all that. Like, okay, cool. You then prove me wrong. And that's good to hear in regards to that. Caleb Wilson doesn't just act like he wants the moment. He acts like and looks like he expects to live up to that moment. He wants to live up to it. And that's the thing. And hearing Derrick Rose talk about that gambit moment and things like that, like that's like, and we heard that clip. I posted on the channel. Like, what are you willing to sacrifice? Because this game doesn't come through. Being great in this game doesn't come without its sacrifices. It means that putting in the extra work. It means the better conditioning. It means you got to be willing to accept coaching, because what that sets as a tone in your locker room and for the other guys in there. If the best player is accepting coaching, guess what? Everybody else got to fall in line if that best player is accepting that. And hopefully Caleb Wilson becomes that best player, right? And so, the learning through the rookie mistakes, the not getting too down on yourself, those are type of things that's in regards to that. Derrick Rose isn't just telling Caleb Wilson that he has to shine. He's telling him that it takes a cost to stay locked in the manner in which you need to stay locked in. And that's what you're going to have to see in regards to that one, right? So then that brings to the next question, a question that a lot of Bulls fans have asked themselves: can Caleb Wilson be Rookie of the Year? Now, I've already talked very in-depth about the case that each of the top 4 players have. I even went to more depth in it on the top 4 players, plus 2 honorable mentions over on the Full Court podcast. If you guys want to check that out as well, it's linked down below. But outside of that, right, when you look at this, only 3 Chicago Bulls have won Rookie of the Year. It's Michael Jordan, Elton Brand, and Derrick Rose. That's it. That's the only people that have done it in the history of this franchise. Caleb Wilson wants to become the 4th player in this franchise to win Rookie of the Year. And when you look at FanDuel, for example, they have Caleb Wilson near the top of the race at plus 333, behind Cam Boozer at plus 300. So it seems like the world is starting to realize like Caleb Wilson has the capability of doing that. DraftKings has him as 350 behind Boozer and Darren Peterson, so 3rd there. AJ DeBonce is also in the race of that, of course, right? But I think when you look at it, the Summer League performance has changed the perception of Caleb Wilson and maybe what his ceiling is. And I think when you look at the path to being Rookie of the Year, it comes down to the role, the production, and whether right or wrong, and there are going to be some people that disagree if this should play, but the highlights play a factor into that as well. Caleb Wilson is walking into a major role in Chicago, even if it's not getting 16 shots per game, but he's going to be one of the defensive tone setters of this team. He's going to get to play with a player like Josh Giddey that's going to put him in some of the best situations possible. And so when you look at the two-way ability, he's there, right up there with anybody else in this draft class. He's going to have the priority list in regards to that. When you look at Darren Peterson and AJ DeBonce, they're going to teams that have a lot of players in that pecking order. Not to say that they may not be towards the top of that, but you're going to spread those shots out a little bit more, right? So when you look at the highlight factor of it too, that's going to get him in this conversation. The dunks, the chase down blocks, the getting plays in transition, the starting the fast break, those type of things, they're all going to be there. The 3-point flashes, right? And so when you look at that part of it, Caleb Wilson does have it. And when you look at how Rookie of the Year and award voters, weigh those things, they weigh very heavily in regards to that. Now, there are some things that could potentially hold Caleb Wilson back for sure, right? Like he has to adjust to the NBA physicality. It's going to be a lot different than what he faced night in and night out in college and definitely in high school, right? The handle, how much he tightens that up and his decision-making are going to make a big factor into that as well. And, you don't usually expect rookies to be highly efficient, but Caleb Wilson has a chance to be efficient because of the natural way his game's going to be around the rim. We're going to get out in transition. Even if that 3-point shot's not efficient, almost everything else of his game has a chance to be really efficient in his rookie year. And that's what you look at it in regards to, right? And so I think when you look at all of this, on top of the factor of Modest and Caleb Wilson pushing each other, this is going to be, as many people have said, a fun basketball team to watch. How many wins we get in that? That's still up in the air. We don't exactly know what's going to hurt in regards to that one, but I do think a lot of this puts in perspective that this team is in a position where we are going to try to make that next step together. And we actually have, now it seems like, a foundation that you can look at and you can believe in. And Caleb Wilson is right there at the forefront of that foundation, right along with Modest, right along with Josh Giddey, right along with, hope that other players and, Dalen Swain, Noah Essengay, and Leonard Miller, and these guys can show that as well. Like, it's actually, I said this over on, I think, Twitter yesterday, in which I said, like, this is the first time where it really does feel like not only are the Bulls progressing and moving towards something, but that it's a vision there and you can see it. There are a lot of people that say, oh, let's not give credit for Bryson Graham taking Caleb Wilson. That's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is that he's in the building now, and it's not just getting the player is only one step. How you cultivate, how you develop, how you put that player in the right position, that's what matters almost just as much as getting the guy. And hopefully that Bryson Graham has done that with his moves, getting the right coach in place, and all those type of things. And we just got to see how that's going to grow and develop for this team. But for the first time in a long time, it feels like the Bulls are progressing and moving towards something. We just got to see if they're actually going to be able to nail it all home like they haven't, like AK never was able to do, for example. So let me know what you guys think of all that down below. Hearing Derrick Rose's words in regards to Caleb Wilson, Caleb's chances at Rookie of the Year, the factor between him and Modest Buzelis and how they're going to push each other to be great. Let me know what you guys think on that part down below. With that said, it is Sunday. That means it is mailbag day. Let's go ahead and get into these voicemails that we got. This one's from Jeremy.
All right, what is up, Haize? This is your boy Jeremy down here in Oklahoma. So touch on a few things real quick. I think we're all just ready for some actual preseason and get this shit going. But I did see some footage. Caleb and Mattis or Madas already working out, so I love to see it. It's just going to be fun. As far as Vaughn, like I understand the passion, bro. I've been a fan. I'm 50 years old, man. Like I'm tired of it too, but that's one of the most unrealistic takes. We should 50 games in 2 years. I mean, come on, man. And then making those kind of moves, in my opinion, is what got us in the position we were in last time. When we tried to make some shit happen, and all of a sudden we have Zach, DeMar, and all our young guys didn't get anything out of it. So, realistically, 2 to 3 years, we see how it goes. It's not going to change overnight, as much as I'd love to see it happen. But, yeah, be red. Peace out.
Vaughn is a non-serious person, bro. Like, that's just what I say. No offense. He has a voicemail on the show again. But, I do agree with you that sometimes making moves too soon and going all in too soon, it actually hurts you more than it ever really helps you, right? And I think in regards to, like, what you said and what I said early in the show, Modest and Caleb are two players that can grow together. Josh Giddey's right there. He's not too far above them. He's going to grow with them too as well. They're going to push each other. They're going to challenge each other. They're going to build a relationship and bond on the basketball court. And that's really going to be fun to see. That's going to be really fun to see these two players. Vaughn, somebody who's more worried about the color of a player's skin than the makeup of a player and who they are. And that just is what it is. Like, it is what it is. Me and him have talked about it off air and stuff like that, but that's just who he is, what he believes in. But I think for this team and for people who care more about basketball than the creed and color of somebody's skin, it comes down to this. Go out there and work, young fellas. And these two young players, I think, are really going to put in that work, and they're going to push each other to be great. All right, let's get into this next voicemail, man. This one's from Reggie.
Hey, Haize, this is Reginald calling in. I'm here to respond to your bid about Modest being, off the leash that Billy put him on. And last year was probably Billy's worst year of coaching because it felt like he just gave up and, focused solely on analytics. Before that, he was trying to win games by relying almost exclusively on his veterans, to the detriment to the growth of the younger guys. He could put part of that on AK for the team construction. You win what you have on your roster, but the play calling, the strategies, as much as I would love to blame AK for a lot of things, that was on Billy, which is why I wasn't sad to see him go. I was one of the few people who was like, thank God. But Modest wasn't the only one who Billy hurt last year by having him be more hesitant to take the mid-range shot and to focus more on the three-point shot, which wasn't his shot. Attacking the basket, getting to the mid-range, forcing, teams on their heels. That's him. he could be a 20-point scorer doing stuff like that. And if he goes 2 for 5, great. From the 3, that's great. But, you know, playing to his strength is what Billy Donovan should have been doing. And the same with Io. Because we heard the same thing with Io. Io worked with his strength, attacking the rim, getting to the mid-range. And once again, if he feels it, he can take the 3-point shot. And just like I said with Modest, he could have gone 2 for 5. But once again, Billy chose to go with analytics and chose a strategy that the team clearly wasn't built around. And it ended up being what it was. As for Reinsdorf, I heard some people say that the minute Michael Reinsdorf apologized for, you know, the past 5 years of mediocrity and just bad basketball, bad front office decisions. They said they felt a change because they never heard an owner do that. But they hired AK and saw he was fucking up. The minute he drafted P. Will, there should have been a conversation. And the minute they found out he was going to give people a 5-year deal, he should have been fired then. But, you know, we'll see what everything happens now with the new front office, with new head coach, with new players. Hope for the best. Thanks for hearing me out.
It was really the last 2 seasons under Billy Donovan where we started becoming more of a 3-point spamming team. That was after AK kind of mandated and said that we wanted to change our shot profile. You remember that a couple of, you know, years in press conferences. And we became a team that didn't really do what we wanted to do in the sense of, you know, changing the shot profile in structure. It became more about just spamming the 3-pointers at a certain point, and it ended up hurting the team because we did that. And, you know, there's just no way around that. But I do think it hurt development and changed all that. But now we don't have to worry about it. We got Tiago Splitter in here. I think he's going to do us a really good job at getting us to how we need to play basketball and playing it the right way, playing as a team. And that's all that really matters. As long as we do those things, we'll be perfectly fine. And, you know, I think that's the way. Like, development, it hurt development, but I think we're going to get back on track and develop the right way going forward. All right, let's get into this next voicemail, man. This one's from Shay.
What's up, Haize? It's Shay. Look, man, I know we're a young team coming into this season, but let's be honest, man. I don't believe a lot of teams, and you correct me if I'm wrong, can match up with us defensively. Look, outside of maybe Josh Giddey and Norman Powell, well, Norman Powell could play defense a little bit. Josh Giddey a little bit. Our starting 5 is full of good defenders. Not to mention, if you look off the bench, we don't really have nobody that is a bad defender, well, maybe outside of Rob Dillingham. When you actually see it, we should be top of the NBA in defensive win shares and ratings. I feel like, I know we're young, but I believe, you know, if we want to win a lot of games, we're going to have to hang our hat on our defense. We're not going to be able to drag them out, shoot them out the window games, because we're not a 3-point shooting team. We're not going to be a high-scoring team. I believe we're going to be a high transition team. Yeah, because we are really young, and we can have guys that get out there and transition. We have guys that can pass the ball. But I do feel like, you know, we really need to hang our hat on our defensive abilities. If anything, if I'm Splitter, at the start of at game 1, I'm telling this team, hang your hat on your defensive abilities if you want to win. If you want to win and be in the playoff picture by the time playoffs start. But that's just me. You may have a different outlook on it. Anyway, tell me what you think, man, if you read this message. Peace.
It's way too early to say no team can match us defensively. Way too early. There have been teams that have been together playing defense together for years, and with the Bulls coming together, it's just too many variables right now to say that. Caleb Wilson is very good defensively, but he's a rookie. He has to deal with physicality, those type of things. Nick Claxton has been great defensively at times in his career, but he's adjusting to a new system. those type of things we'll see, right? Modest has been really solid at times defensively, but he also has a problem dealing with physicality and stuff like that. And then the bench, we got some pretty decent bench players as far as two-way players off it. Jalen Smith, with the way that he can protect the rim. Leonard Miller was a really good defender in his minutes last year. Let's see what he can do when there's a little bit more focus on him. We know Trey Jones is a really good defender. But, I think it's too early to say that nobody can match with us defensively. It's just way too early to say that. But I do agree. We got to hang our hats on what we can do defensively. That has to be a big part of our identity. As long as that is, I think we got a pretty good chance to continue to develop and grow those parts of our game. We just got to see what's going to happen in regards to that, right? And we'll see. I think defense, transition play, those are going to be really big identity markers for the Bulls this upcoming season. And let's see what we do with it. All right, let's get into this last voicemail, man. This one's from Vaughn.
What's going on, Haize? This is Vaughn giving you a call from Indianapolis. Probably about as quick as I'm ever going to be. First and foremost, thank you for leaving that two-guard list the other day. Again, Bruce Brown is definitely my favorite to back up Powell. He's got a pedigree, championship pedigree. I think he would be perfect for that 15th roster spot. And just because we say 15th roster spot doesn't mean that he's got to be the 15th man off the bench. I mean, he could pass up Patrick Williams. He could definitely pass up Noah Essengay. And again, he's not the pure shooter that ideally that I would like to back up Norman Powell, but I think he would be a very good vet to have on the team. And again, just to add to the vets, to influence, Matas and Caleb and guys like that, and even Giddey, So, again, Brown is the guy in my opinion. The second thing I have, and it's kind of come up on your platform and another show that you do, it just seems like it's a foregone conclusion that y'all want to get rid of Norman Powell in year 2. I mean, the guy is 33. He's coming off an all-star year. Guys clearly play longer into their careers now and remain productive. So he looks like he takes care of his body. I'm not sure that Norman Powell at 34 at $22.5 million is a bad thing. So again, if we can get, a 1 for him, maybe, but I think we need to get rid of this almost like it's a foregone conclusion that, Powell's going to be gone next year. I don't think that's right. And I don't think that's the case. And I hope that's not how the Bulls are thinking. Like, he's the perfect player for this team. I think we finally have, again, it's summer league, but again, I've always said Dalen, Swain does not have the traits really to play two guard. He's got a slow release. Again, he's not a catch and shoot player. Obviously his handle needs work. If anything, maybe he's kind of like an Andrew Nembhard type player possibly. So I guess maybe that would be a 2 that I compare him to. Obviously he's taller than Nembhard, but let's not be so quick to get rid of Norman Powell. And again, I'm not saying that you guys said definitively, you or obviously another platform said that definitively, but it seems like that's the popular sentiment. I guess I was wrong as I normally am. So anyway, that's my take. Keep doing a great job. Peace.
Vaughn, you said that Bruce Brown doesn't have to be the 15th guy, and then you mentioned 2 players that probably aren't going to be in the rotation anyway. Sometimes, Vaughn, I don't know what the fuck you be talking about. I'm going to be 100% frank with you. Sometimes it seems like you just be wanting to talk. And I say that in love, brotherly love, messing with you and stuff like that, but it's even the part about Norman Powell. I've never said that there's going to be a foregone conclusion that Norman Powell is going to be traded. I said that the Bulls have flexibility to move off the contract if they decide they need to pivot or move in a different way, which is when you sign somebody to a 1+1 contract and an option in the second year, that's what you're setting yourself up for. But I even said on that same show, hey, Bulls fans who are just assuming, because so many Bulls fans are just, every time we sign somebody, we can trade them, that may not necessarily happen, but you built in the flexibility. Sometimes I really just think, Vaughn, you don't listen. And you're too quick to react and respond and don't listen to what actually is said, and you just be trying to make a point. There's a difference between having to say something and having something to say. And I mean this to you, brother. We talk outside of this podcast thing, and we've talked, and we've those type of things. But Vaughn, sometimes, bro, I just got to be honest with you. You just be talking. And the stuff that you say don't really be making sense or matching with the thing that you're quote-unquote responding to. I don't get it. I really don't get it. We got to get you some friends, man. We got to get you some friends. But all right, that's going to end it for today's episode. I want to thank you to everybody who left a voicemail, man. Make sure you guys sound off in that comment section. How do you feel about what Derrick Rose said about Caleb Wilson? How do you feel about Caleb Wilson's chances to win Rookie of the Year? Sound off on that down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at Bull Central Pod on every social media platform. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation